Why Media Group? The fastest growing media group in North America.
Who is winning the war? So, from my perspective, I think first things first, as far as the tactical aspect is concerned, of course, US and Israel both have had a free run in hitting whatever targets they wanted to hit. The numbers vary, but I think around, as far as the numbers that I see it, around 10 to 11,000 targets they've already hit in Iran between US and Israel, maybe even more. So there are close to 2,000 people who have been killed in Iran, 20,000 plus wounded, and at this point, on that aspect, okay, fine. Now, I think the war is fought on many fronts. So when we talk about who's winning the war right now or who would eventually win the war, so war is not fought on one front. The military aspect is one aspect, the economic aspect is the other one. So Iran is, as far as the military aspect is concerned, we all knew the US military might, or combined with Israeli firepower as well, Iran may not really match that. But if you look at the economic aspect, I think Iran not only is still firing missiles and drones, even the military aspect, but it's firing missiles and drones on all these GCC nations. So approximately 9 countries they have struck, and UAE, Dubai is facing tough time, Saudi Arabia is facing tough time. How do they block that? From Oman to Qatar, there are all these countries they're facing a tough time right now. And despite Saudi Arabia having an alliance with Pakistan, I don't think so Saudi Arabia wants to escalate the situation and start a full-blown military war with Iran. And then Pakistan, they have a defense alliance, but then things could go really wrong for these countries. So Strait of Hormuz, despite the warning by US President Trump that from this point onwards, next 48 hours, if you do not open the Strait of Hormuz, will take action, will target your energy installations. So 48 hours deadline came and went away, 5-day deadline came and went away, then another 10-day deadline has been announced. So from my perspective, I think, for now, for Iran, as long as they do not completely lose the war, as long as they do not lose the war, they will claim some sort of victory. For them, winning is not important. For them, if they keep on fighting, and I think for now, Iran, the Strait of Hormuz, they have a solid control over there. So as long as they can keep on fighting, they would claim that they are winning the war. And another aspect, I'll quote The Economist here, because I try to read all the Financial Times, financial papers as well. I'm quoting The Economist over here. The amount of money they are making before 28th February and after 28th February come, it has actually doubled. They're selling, I've given this news, not many international media would give you the news that I already broke, that Iran has sold to Reliance Industries, to India on a premium. But today I'm quantifying, but my source, I'm quoting the source, this is not my news, but I tried to check because I wanted to know what sort of premium are they charging. They have, the amount of money they're making is double the amount. This is The Economist. So Iran, as far as that financial resources, and here we are, because of all this, Russia is able to sell oil to even to its friend India on a premium. So Russia is also able to sell the oil. Military aspect, but the economic aspect, and we all know, you said that earlier too, almost $1 billion loss as far as this war cost is concerned. And then we talk about another aspect as well. Yes, there is a military buildup, but of how many? I've already said that. 91 war, the Gulf War, or 2003 Iraq war, there were 800,000 or then 350,000 troops, and then England was also part of that. But here we are, 10,000 troops. I heard President Trump saying this, that we're going to capture the Kyrgyz Island, or we're going to go there. But how can you capture the Kyrgyz Islands? Are you going to make your people sitting ducks over there? Because Iran won't, back down. Iran is clearly saying this. We're all ready. Bring it on. So Iran is not backing down as we speak. And then you also mentioned the other day as well, that there are a lot of challenges. There's a lot of discussion. The No Kings protest in US. So there are many challenges domestically as well for the president. How long can he carry on this war? And almost 50 states, there were protests. The numbers are different. That 3,000 plus rallies. That's what they're saying. And here is US President Donald Trump. He had protests in his first term as well. I'm sure he's not going to back down from these protests. But then, you have to see, he could be a lame duck president once you lose majorities in Congress or in Senate. So there would be elections, midterm elections. So you have to have some sort of popularity. The poll numbers in his favor are coming down. So I'm sure Trump would be thinking on those terms as well. Of course, he's claiming that yes, we are winning. But then are the Americans buying it? Yes, the best part for Trump is he has a solid base, the mega base or whatever you want to call it, the Republicans, on some section of Republicans. He certainly has that base strong. Trump can do whatever. They would definitely support him. But overall, let alone the Democrats and others, but overall, within the Republican or within his supporters, is that popularity number coming down? We'll see all that in the midterm polls. But I think for now, Iran, and then the talks that we're listening, I don't think so there'll be any fruitful discussions as of now. This is the way I look at Islamabad or Pakistan doesn't have that much of leverage. The 4 foreign affairs ministers, including Pakistan's foreign affairs minister that they met, they could discuss, but then I don't think so much of a headway, much of a breakthrough as far as these things are concerned. So who's winning the war? I won't really pick a side here, that US or Iran, but the military aspect, yes, Israel and US seem to be quite strong, but then there are massive economic implications, and then I'm hearing discussions of a nuclear threat as well. I think things could go horribly wrong. Things could go horribly wrong from here on, and Iran has already said that. He's threatening that we are going to be out of NPT, Nuclear Proliferation Treaty. And what does this mean? Iran agreed for the inspections. So now you're going there to stop Iran from getting a nuclear weapon, but if Iran says, I'm out of NPT, no more inspections at my nuclear facilities, and Iran has always claimed that these are all for peaceful energy means. So they're not saying we're building a nuclear bomb, but then who is going to stop Iran if there are no more inspection, if Iran is threatening to move out of NPT? Ramona ji.
Yeah, very good points there. I think we need to look at the key factors for Iran and key factors for the United States. One thing we know is that it's proven to be obvious that this Trump administration didn't foresee this going on as long as it has, right? When they first started, they said this is going to be just a few weeks operation, then it's going to be ended. And then, talking points of first regime change. Let's not forget that. That was what he said he wanted to do, get rid of this regime. Decides, okay, let's kill the entire Ayatollah and top leadership. And then, a lot of experts told him, well, you cannot have a regime change with aerial bombs. You need to be able to go boots on the ground. You need to have the support of the military. A lot of things need to happen. It's not as easy as that, right? And then Iran has been very consistent with their messaging when compared to the United States, which has been changing from regime change to then opening up the Strait of Hormuz, then now taking over Karg Island, and then trying to take out the 400 kilograms of enriched uranium. Like, there's so many talking points. And then early on, within the first 24 hours, you had Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, say, Israel was going to attack, and then they were going to go ahead anyway. And if they did, and we didn't join them, then we would have been attacked. So we decided to join them, right? Essentially saying this is not our war, right? And this is something that the president has also said. So this does not, of course, mean well for the American people who are wondering why they're in a war. Of course, when you have things like their TSA, what are the latest numbers? Since mid-February, they haven't been paid. There's 61,000 TSA employees. Those are the people at the airports that make sure that people are able to travel. And Trump had said, okay, he's going to put ICE agents there in replacement of TSA agents. So if you cannot have your own airports running, if you cannot have, your own government functioning well, how are you going into a place like Iran that's been literally preparing for a war like this for about 5 decades, right? Iran, this regime has been there since 1979. It has invested in its military power. It has invested in every aspect and knows strategically where it has its upper hand and where it doesn't, and knows its weaknesses and its strengths. Meanwhile, this administration cannot even have one goal in mind. So what does that mean for the troops that are sending there? What's their morale like? You mentioned MAGA, his base. He started losing that base when he said, what Epstein files? Right? And that's when his base started saying, what? I'm sorry, what? You had campaigned on releasing the Epstein files. You had campaigned on ending forever wars, more specifically in the Middle East. So he's really gone back on a lot of those things. And when we talk about affordability crisis in Canada, well, the United States has their own affordability crisis. And this was a president that campaigned as a candidate. He had campaigned on America first. So when you come out within the first 24 hours and say Israel was going to go to war anyway against Iran and we joined, a lot of MAGA is saying, well, is that Israel first or is that America first? Because America still doesn't know what it's doing there. So now let's look at what, the key points in Iran, which is what we've heard him talk about the last few weeks, right? We know that the International Atomic Energy Agency has concluded that Iran has 400 kilograms of uranium enriched at 60%, right? And Iran has also reported that nearly half of that, so 200 kilograms, 20% of fissile material, it can be easily converted to about 90% weapon grade. Okay, so Hiroshima, what we saw happen in Japan when the atomic bomb was dropped in 1945, well, that was only 80% enriched. So Iran is saying you can do that quickly to 90% enrichment. And what you just mentioned in terms of now saying we're going to go ahead, we don't need any sort of speculation or of any of our sites. So that's huge. That's huge. Something to worry about. Last year, when we saw the bombing campaign happen with Israel and the United States, that's last year, June 2025, they said that they had destroyed the Iranian nuclear facilities, but then Iran said that they were able to move out some of that uranium before their facilities were bombed. So it's unknown whether they're saying that the uranium is so far underground that Iranians can't move it, and this is what we're talking about: boots on the ground. One for Karg Island, where 90% of Iranians' oil comes out of, and then the second point is this mission impossible to go and remove this uranium by sending American troops. We know that the IAEA director, he said that he believes, this is in the past from last year, he believes that the uranium is at 2 or the 3 sites since the attacks that happened last year, and saying that there is a very complex underground tunnel for this nuclear complex, and saying that it's in Isfahan as well as another location such as Nanetez. So this is, so now the American troops, if they're speculating what Pentagon has proposed to the president, President Trump, in terms of, we don't really know where the uranium is, but these are the locations that there might be in, and this is serious matter in terms of sending them in. Now, Iran is not currently enriching the uranium. This is something that experts have said, the assessments there, but it previous to that, with the negotiations were to give up the stockpiling enrichment, there was a fatwa, meaning religious ruling, with the previous Ayatollah Khamenei, who was killed on February 29th with the attacks. where he said, we're not going to enrich uranium. So many things are pointing to, okay, Iran was, agreeing to terms of the United States and potentially giving Trump more of what they would have agreed to in previous agreements under the U.S. administration, such as Obama's administration. Now we're in a situation where it's gone dark. And even though Pakistan says, yes, we're having talks, but now Iran is saying, well, no, we're, come. And unfortunately, they described if boots on the ground, military boots on the ground, United States boots on the ground would mean a swamp of death for them. And they're being very serious about that. So let's look at also the other aspects, Strait of Hormuz, which, 20% of the world's oil comes out of, has been blocked by the Iranians. There is speculation that they're creating a toll where some ships had to pay an upwards of $2 million to get through. And that is, of course, something that Iranians are seeing that they could collect because it is devastating to Pacific region. It's devastating to, India that takes 60% of its oil from that region, China 40%, Japan 75%. So it's a devastating situation that is already creating an economic pressure. So what U.S. and Israel are doing is they're targeting Iranian key infrastructure sites. What Iran is doing, because it knows it cannot bomb the United States, it cannot go up against the United States and their military power. What it's doing is creating the economic pressure of making oil unaffordable, creating and really a lot of countries realizing their dependence on oil and how much literally everything moves by making sure that they get cheap energy to run their factories, their households, everything in between. So now when Trump talks about, taking over Kharg Island, what does that mean? 90% of Iran's oil exports come from there. You get there, okay, but how do you keep it? And is this a suicide mission by being able to having to send more and more and more troops? So that seems unattainable, which is why we cannot get a clear understanding of what President Trump's plan is in all of this. And what he plans on doing. That's why he keeps changing the dates of the negotiation, hoping something would come to terms. And also, he needs to show the American people that he started this and they're going to end up better off, not worse off with the Iranians than before this started. But already the indications are there saying we need to open up the Strait of Hormuz as why we're going to put boots on the ground. Well, it was already open before this whole thing happened. So did that make Americans worse off? We know that when it comes to the strategic chokehold that Iran has in the region, they have about 88,000 stockpiles of drones that are hitting those key targets in the GCC nations. It costs them, estimates are now, it costs them anywhere from like 10,000 to 50,000 just to have a drone hit these massive locations that are destabilizing the infrastructure in the Middle East. Meanwhile, the United States, every time they use their defense facility to be able to intercept the drones, that costs them $1 million. So you could do the math that when it comes to the economics of war, the United States is spending far more than what Iran is spending, and therefore they're able to continue a little bit longer. And that's why you're seeing them throwing so many missiles at all directions when it comes to their neighboring GCC countries as well as to Israel. So, again, it's estimated as $1 billion a day the United States is spending to be in this war. Obviously, we don't know the total numbers until much later on. But when it comes to Strait of Hormuz, we know that this energy supply is at high risk. We're looking at oil prices it's already at like $101 per barrel as of now. And this is why you're seeing, as you said, Iran is now making more money selling its oil and Russia selling its oil than it did before the war. So again, I don't want to use the word who's winning the war, but if President Trump has to talk about are they worse off or better off after this war has started, so far, all indications are that they are worse off. And indications of countries like Russia that has had sanctions, they're better off. They're making more money. Iran is making more money. So it's just to wrap your head around the logic of this. As we know, when wars start, they take a logic of their own. Just to be able to wrap your head around it, it's just it doesn't make sense. It's like 2 + 2 does not equal 4 when it comes to this war and what this means. But we know that the conflict has spread to Lebanon. We know that that Israeli forces are in southern Lebanon and they're pushing forth. We know that this has brought in the Yemen Houthis. We know that the Gulf countries that have been affected. We're talking about power plants, industrial zones, energy facilities have been hit. It's disrupting electricity, water systems, industrial production. Today India put out a report that, they're going to go back on in terms of their manufacturing because they just can't justify it when it comes to textiles. So many Indian workers are going back to their villages because things are drying up. Cooking oil. That's another massive thing that there's a shortage of. So you can see the interdependence of all these nations upon each other when it comes to natural resources. So this is something that, we'll see what happens by Friday. President Trump's rhetoric will change to be a lot more hardline than at the end of the week, whereas in the beginning of the week, it's a lot softer on his stance. So it's a moving target, essentially, of where this war is going.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, the situation is still quite fluid, and you made some very good points there. And we'll wrap it up on this: who's winning the war. But we'll carry on this discussion in our next episode. But for now, one very important point that I want to highlight is when we're talking about who is winning the war, as you and I have discussed before, and even today as well. I mean, Iran is making more money, and one of the key aspect is the Strait of Hormuz. It still remains largely closed. It's only open for its friends like India, Russia, China. Those are the only ones who are getting their ships across. But other than India, China, and all those, not much of a success for others there. So Strait of Hormuz remains mostly closed. And as I mentioned earlier as well, President Trump, he threatened earlier 48-hour deadline gone, 5 days deadline gone, 10 days deadline gone. And here we are, he's saying that, yes, I'm going to attack the energy installations of Iran once again. So these are all discussions, but then at the end of the day, for now, even as you mentioned, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, he did threaten that, yes, we cannot allow Iran to take control of these international waters. Fine, Marco Rubio has said that you cannot allow the control, but for now, who has the control? Who has the control? Now, who is winning the war? There are so many aspects, but the control of international waterways, the control of Strait of Hormuz is definitely a very important point. I mean, US could flip around, but how do they do that with those 10,000 forces? I don't know whether US will be able to do that or not. Marco Rubio said we will definitely prefer talks, but there are other discussions also on the table. But what are those other discussions? Are you going to throw a nuclear bomb? Are you going to attack? Or we don't know. And you said that in the last episode as well, and we all know that. I've also mentioned that earlier as well, that US President Trump has love for oil and for certain other things. I mean, there are no conspiracy theories or there's no backroom deals here. He just openly mentioned once again, in the last 24 hours, Trump mentioned once again, I love having oil. So he's been quite candid about what he wants there, and he says, okay, for that, I love oil, I'll control the Kharg Island. So you want to control the Kharg Island, you want the oil, you want to open the waterways, you want to take control of the Strait of Hormuz. None of this is happening. Nothing is happening. So as much as on one side, when we look at the military aspect, and of course, as I already mentioned on the military aspect, I doubt Iran is any match for the US and Israeli firepower. But then if you look at the economics of that, and a common person, a common American for that matter, Americans would definitely ask this question, even if we would target the nuclear installations or all these things are important. The optics could look great, but those are the optics. But here we are at the ground level facing inflation, facing job losses, and it's not just the oil. We've discussed this many times. There's so many other aspects. It's the LPG, the cooking gas that we were talking about, it's the fertilizer, including urea, used in so many different parts of the world. So everything adds up. And then there are tensions as well. I mean, you look at the numbers there, almost 3,000 have been killed, close to 2,000 just in Iran. But then there are, go to Lebanon. 20% of the population has been displaced. Many children are suffering today. And this war would grow wider by the day. Iran just mentioned Ukraine. They are sending their special experts in Middle East. So Iran has said that. So if Ukraine is sending special experts in Middle East, so that means you become part of the war. And it's growing wider by the day, and the US is not getting any help from its allies. I just heard once again, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer clearly said, this is not our war. No, we're not sending troops. So Keir Starmer, the British Prime Minister, clearly mentioned that. We already heard from our Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney. Spain, let alone sending troops, Spain is not even allowing airspace to the warplanes of US, Spain. So we've heard Italy, we've heard Germany, we've heard France, we've heard England, Canada, India. They don't want to get into any sort of, they're just doing okay, diplomatic efforts from India. And even, I'll wrap it up here, the discussions that are happening in Islamabad, I mean, you have 4 foreign ministers there, but Italy's foreign minister was also there. But Iran has targeted Turkey. Iran targeted Turkey. So the NATO forces, they deflected that. And, it's not just about a $5,000 or a $10,000 or $15,000 or a $20,000 missile or drone, and you have $1 million Tomahawks, but then there is other military hardware which is worth millions and billions of dollars, which is over there in the Middle East. And Iran, with its missiles and drones, which don't cost much, is trying to target all that military hardware. So who's winning the war is anybody's guess. For now, Iran claims victory for their domestic audience, and US is also claiming the victory that yes, we are winning. Ramona ji, your final comments, and we'll wrap it up, please.
It's a devastating time, I think, with all these ongoing wars in so many different countries, and we're not seeing the end of most of them in terms of, as we talked about the Ukraine, Russia war, all the different wars that have been happening for quite some time, and the new ones that are escalating day by day. This is a time of us being able to pray more and send our best wishes and really, really try to change the trajectory of this. We know us humans, we're master manifestors, right? We know that we can change the outcome of our trajectory of our own lives, and on a global part we can as well. So right now, I think it's very crucial to be able to, calm ourselves, really pray for a better outcome for the entire global region, and that affects us all. We're seeing how interconnected, interdependent all of these things are. And so from my side, just sending prayers and condolences, and hopefully for a much, much better outcome.
Okay. Thank you so much. That's all the time that we have today, but we will carry on our live discussion. So at Ymedia, different platforms. Channel Y is broadcasted in Canada. So if you're here in Canada, watch Channel Y on Rogers 857, Bell 828, Telus 2418, and Ignite 707. Channel Y right across Canada. If you're watching on digital platforms or any of the boxes, don't forget to save in your favorites our 24/7 all English channel Y Plus. It's a 24/7 all English channel, so save it in your favorites. If you're driving anywhere around GTA, so tune in to your favorite radio station, Radio Y FM 105.9. So you get top of the hour news, music, and news and analysis as well. So don't forget to pick your copy of midweek newspaper if you're anywhere in GTA, but the digital copies are available across the globe on southasiandaily.com. In case you are in US, anywhere in US, yes, Channel Y USA, so Channel Y is broadcasted in US as well. So anywhere in US, you can go on Dish, on Sling. So on Sling, on Dish Network, you will find Channel Y. For any further information, the number is at the bottom of your screen, 416-475-5000. Thank you so much, Ramona ji, once again, and we will carry on the discussion in the next 24 hours with you. There's lots happening, lots to discuss at the Ymedia Foreign Policy Report, at Ymedia Business and Wealth Report. We did want to talk more about affordability, but we'll talk about that. And Ymedia Political Sensex is on, so lots of discussion with you. Thank you. You have a wonderful day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ymedia Group, the fastest growing media group in North America.